Acer's Helios Neo 16 has a lot of nice improvements in 2024, but it's still not perfect. Nothing in life is. Which is why I'll show you the good and the bad in this review. The design of the newer 2024 model is a little different. There's less stuff printed on the black metal lid, and the rear section has a clear finish now. The lid logo has RGB lighting now, and it's just a series of lines. The blue corners on the back have been replaced with silver too, so overall, the newer model is just a bit cleaner looking. Overall build quality is much the same as last gen 2, which is to say it feels pretty good. The vents above the keyboard are a little smaller this year, and that's because the overall laptop is slightly smaller in all dimensions, though only by an extremely small amount. That said, the newer model is slightly heavier this year. Again, it's only a small difference, but both are on the heavier side when compared to most other 16-inch gaming laptops out there. For some reason, it still comes with a large 330-watt charger, which adds extra weight. Usually you only see these with RTX 4080 or 4090 laptops, but for whatever reason, Acer are including it with our 4070 version. My 4070 config also has Intel's newer i7-14700HX processor, which means RAM speed gets boosted from last year's DDR5 4800 to 5600 this year. The screen also gets upgraded from 165Hz to 240Hz too. Not only is the screen faster, but the color gamut is better this year too, so it just looks nicer. It still has the same amount of brightness as last year's version, at about 500 nits, which is a great result when compared to a lot of other gaming laptops, and only really clearly beaten by laptops with more expensive mini LED screens. Screen response time is great too, as most transitions occur within the 4.16 millisecond refresh window. It gets sped up by overdrive, which is enabled by default. Technically, it's faster compared to last year's model, but the difference is only minor and within the margin of error range. In any case, the Helios Neo 16 has a fast screen, great for fast-paced gaming without blur. The total system latency is the amount of time between a mouse click and when a gunshot fire appears on the screen in Counter-Strike 2. The Helios Neo 16 was quite impressive here, sitting in between a number of higher-spec laptops. Just like last year, there's a Mux Switch, Advanced Optimus, and G-Sync. So it's fast and great for competitive gaming. Now let's check out how well it actually performs in games. We've tested it with these settings for best results. Cyberpunk 2077 was tested with our own custom test run, and I've got the Helios Neo 16 shown by the red highlight. At 1080p, it's the best result we've ever measured for an RTX 4070 gaming laptop. A great result. It's the same deal at 1440p too, even coming out slightly ahead of the last gen 3080 Ti with double the VRAM capacity. Still though, the only way to get a significant FPS boost from here is to spend more for a laptop with the higher tier RTX 4080. Red Dead Redemption 2 was tested with the game's benchmark. Again, at 1080p, it's the best RTX 4070 result measured so far, and interestingly, the same as the bigger Helios 18, but with much more expensive RTX 4090 graphics. Higher end graphics often get limited by the CPU at this lower resolution. That 4090 was able to pull ahead at the higher 1440p resolution, as that can better use the GPU, but the Helios Neo 16 was still one of the best 4070 results recorded. This continues in control at 1080p and 1440p too. You might have noticed that I have the minimum power limit as 108 watts, and that's because this 4070 was able to sustain a higher power limit when under load compared to the others. I suspect this is entirely down to the silicon lottery, aka luck. So although my Helios Neo 16 results look great, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a more average 4070 result if we were able to test a bunch more. But I've only got one laptop. Here's what we're looking at in terms of 3D Mark scores. The higher GPU power is noticeable in Blender 2, where it's easily the best RTX 4070 result measured so far. CPU performance is better this year due to Intel's newer 14th gen processor. We're talking about a 24% higher multi-core score in Cinebench R23 compared to last year's 13th gen model, which is in part due to the 14th gen chip having an extra 4 E-cores. Single-core performance was scoring 14% better, which is more than I expected, and actually not that far off some higher-tier 14th gen i9 laptops. So maybe my i7 just won the silicon lottery. Performance on battery lowers if we unplug the charger, but it's still performing better compared to last year's version, at least in terms of multi-core performance. Single-core performance was one of the lowest results measured. Speaking of battery, it still has the same 90 watt-hour battery as before, but it didn't last quite as long, only just scraping 3.5 hours in the YouTube video playback test. A very poor result. That said, it lasted longer with a game running. Acer's laptops don't have the battery saving features found in most other laptops these days, like automatically lowering the screen's refresh rate to 60Hz and turning off the overdrive mode when you unplug the charger to save power. Of course, you can do these manually, but I doubt most people will remember every single time, so we've tested the default. The software gives you the option of limiting the maximum charge level to 80% to help improve battery longevity. To get inside, you've got to remove 10 TR7 screws, all the same length. They used Phillips head screws last year, so I'm not sure why they made it harder to access by using a less common screw type. Anyway, once inside, the layout is the same as last year's Neo 16, with the battery down the front, 2 memory slots above near the middle, 2 M.2 slots for storage, and the Wi-Fi 6E card on the left. Wi-Fi also gets an upgrade from last year's 6 to 6E. Unfortunately, we tested last year's Helios before I updated to a Wi-Fi 7 router, so I can't fairly compare it. But the 2024 version isn't doing quite as well compared to other 6E equipped laptops. But hey, this is still faster than Gigabit Ethernet. The speeds from the SSD are a little faster this year, but not much. The read speeds from the microSD card slot, on the other hand, are only a third of what last year's model offered. The upgradability score is decent and would have been the same as last year, but I take half a point off when uncommon screws are used to get inside. Double-sided SSDs could fit in both slots, no problem though. Let's check out thermals next. It's got 2 fans, one is metal and a couple of heat pipes shared between the CPU and GPU, along with liquid metal on the CPU. The bottom panel has plenty of air intake holes directly over the fans, and air gets exhausted out of both the left and right sides, as well as out of the corners on the back. Plus there are those intake vents above the keyboard. Acer's Predator Sense software allows us to change between different performance modes, which from lowest to highest are quiet, balanced, performance, and turbo. Turbo mode applies this overclock to the GPU by default with no option of tuning it. The next fan control tab lets us max out the fans, or set a custom speed for each of the 2 fans. Fan control is not available in quiet mode because it enables NVIDIA Whisper mode, and turbo mode needs the charger connected. You can also swap between the different performance modes by pressing the button on the left above the keyboard, or you can use software so that it instead enables or disables turbo mode. The internal temps were okay when sitting there idle. The rest of the results are from combined CPU and GPU stress tests, which aim to represent a worst-case full-load scenario. Worst case, the maximum CPU temperature is 5 degrees Celsius cooler than last year's Neo 16, and that's despite the older version having fewer CPU cores and louder fans. It's possible to lower temps quite a lot by maxing the fans out, but as you'll hear soon, this is very loud and not recommended. Running with the lid closed was a little warmer, with the GPU getting closer to NVIDIA's 87-degree thermal throttling limit, so beware of that if you plan on docking the laptop. The cooling pad I test with, linked below, was able to lower temps a bit and allow the fans to run a little slower and quieter. There's not really a performance difference in turbo mode with or without the cooling pad, fans maxed out, or lid open or closed, as thermals weren't a limit in this workload. The CPU gets power limited to 60 watts, which is decent and the same as Lenovo's Legion 7i that we recently tested, but it is lower compared to the 100 watts that we saw from last year's Neo 16. Though to be fair, that's a super high limit, but it explains why last year's model got hotter and ran the fans louder. So we've got a better sweet spot in this year's 2024 model. Most laptops sit at around 30 degrees Celsius on the keyboard at idle, and the Neo 16 was a little cooler than this. It gets warmer with the stress test running, but it's only a little warmer in quiet mode. Balanced mode was cool too, only a little warm near the middle of the keyboard, but nowhere near feeling hot. Performance mode is a little cooler, and the WASD area is cooler still, as air seems to go through the keyboard. Turbo mode was fairly cool too, but we can get it even cooler by setting the fans to max speed. But the problem is, it's super loud now. Let's have a listen. The fans were audible when sitting there idle, and run louder in the higher performance modes when under load, as expected. Turbo mode with the fans on auto was around 60 decibels in last year's Neo 16, so a 6 decibel drop in this year's model is great, and is possible due to the 60 watt CPU power limit. Performance mode was a couple of decibels quieter this year too, and the cooling pad was able to lower the total fan noise a couple more decibels. Last year, it actually ended up making it louder. Honestly, I think having an overall quieter laptop at the expense of a bit less CPU performance is a better move, because 60 decibels with the fans maxed out is just way too loud. I mean, it can still get that loud if you manually max out the fans, but if you leave the fans on automatic, then it shouldn't get as loud in a heavy CPU and GPU workload. And also the fact that they lowered the CPU power limit from 100 watts down to 60 watts when the GPU is still fully loaded up, by the way, is just even more reason that they should have ditched that larger 330 watt charger this generation, and gone with a smaller 230 watt or something. The port layout is exactly the same as last year, but Ethernet has been upgraded from gigabit to 2.5 gigabit in the 2024 model, and I still wish that there were some rear port icons at the back, so we could easily plug stuff in without needing to look over or turn the laptop around. But again, Acer have chosen form over function. The keyboard has 4 zones of RGB backlighting, and all keys and secondary functions get lit up. Key brightness can be changed between 4 levels or turned off with the F11 and F12 shortcut keys. Colors and effects can be customized through Acer's Predator Sense software under the Pulsar lighting tab. Typing on the keyboard feels fine. Just like last year, it's a little clicky feeling. The touchpad is big, nice and smooth, clicks down anywhere, and works well. The speakers are found down the front on the left and right sides. They sound the same as last year's model, which is pretty average, a bit tinny without any real bass. Camera above the screen still does not have support for Windows Hello Face Unlock, but it's at least been upgraded to 1080p this year from last year's 720p. Acer's BIOS looks cool, but there isn't a whole lot of customization available through here compared to other brands like Lenovo and especially MSI, who let you change almost anything you can imagine. Linux support was tested with an Ubuntu 24.04 live CD. By default, the keyboard, touchpad, camera, speakers, Ethernet, and Wi-Fi all worked fine. Keyboard shortcuts for changing volume, screen brightness, and keyboard brightness all worked too. But keys were stuck on blue lighting, and the extra button above the keyboard on the left didn't do anything. Pricing and availability will change over time, so check the link below the video for updates and current sales. And if the Helios Neo 16 does have a good sale, we'll be sure to add it to our gaminglaptop.deals website. We update that every day to include all of the latest sales, so make sure that you check it out regularly to save money on your next gaming laptop. At the time of recording, the RTX 4060 model starts for $1,500 US, though that's with a higher tier i9 processor. For comparison, last year's version with last gen i7 processor is about $80 less, and that's only with a sale running. Its full price is more. Those are on the more expensive side for an RTX 4060 laptop compared to the other options we've got on the deal site at the moment. Again, link is below. The RTX 4070 configuration with i7 that I've tested here is available for $1,700, or you can instead get it with half the RAM but an i9 processor for the same price. Again, it's definitely possible to get a 4070 laptop for hundreds of dollars less with our deals. Based on what we're seeing here, I'd want the 4070 Helios Neo 16 to go for $1,400 when on sale, because that Legion is very competitive. All things considered, there are quite a lot of improvements with this year's Helios Neo 16, including better CPU performance with 14th gen, faster memory as possible due to that newer processor. There's a faster screen with better color gamut, Wi-Fi gets an upgrade to the faster 6E, Ethernet gets upgraded from gigabit to 2.5 gigabit, the fans run quieter while thermals still remain good, and FPS in games is great relative to other similarly spec'd laptops. The main downsides are that it is on the heavier side for a 16-inch gaming laptop, even without the larger 330 watt charger. Seriously, I just don't understand that. They definitely could have used a 240 watt charger charger and not had any issues with battery drain. At least that's the case with other brands that sell laptops with these specs. Oh, and battery life is just pathetic compared to most other gaming laptops. So with that combination, you're just getting less portability, because it's more weight to carry around, and you won't be able to get as much done when on battery power and on the go. Oh, and not to mention the USB Type-C charging is only 65 watts. Most other laptops are at least 100 watts, so even if you wanted to take a smaller Type-C charger, it's just not going to get as much power compared to most other laptops. But if your priority is excellent performance for competitive gaming, then Acer's Helios Neo 16 is worth checking out. I just hope that it gets some nice sales to be more competitive with Lenovo's Legion series. And I'm actually planning on doing a full comparison video between this laptop and Lenovo's Legion 5. Make sure that you're subscribed for that. But until that's ready, you can check out the full review over here next. It's a good laptop that's worth checking out if you're after a laptop of this size with similar specs. I'll see you in that one next.